You wake in the middle of the night, heart beating like a drum against the silence. The room is still, yet something moves within you, something that does not sleep. It comes from the depths, where your mind loosens its grip, and the soul begins to speak in symbols. You try to remember what it said, but the memory fades like mist dissolving into dawn. Still, the feeling remains. It lingers in your chest, a quiet pulse, whispering that the dream meant something. You tell yourself it was only a dream, but a softer voice disagrees. You have ignored that voice for years. The one that speaks in images you do not understand, in emotions that seem misplaced, in sudden memories that appear for no reason. It hides beneath the surface of your day, waiting for darkness to bring it to life again. Sometimes it frightens you. Sometimes it confuses you. And sometimes it feels like it is trying to reach you, as if an unseen part of yourself is calling out for help, asking you to look closer. Dreams are strange that way. They do not argue. They reveal. They weave stories out of fragments of your being, showing you the shape of what you have forgotten. You think they come from nowhere, but they come from you, from the deeper currents of your soul. Each dream carries a message, wrapped in symbols, hidden behind faces and places you cannot quite name. Yet the message is always the same. Remember what you are, remember what you have lost, remember where you were meant to go. You might think you are the one watching your dreams, but it is often the other way around. The dream watches you. It observes your waking life, your choices, your denials. It knows what you suppress, what you postpone, what you pretend not to feel. And when night falls, it weaves everything back together, trying to restore what your conscious mind has torn apart. It is not punishing you. It is trying to save you from yourself. The more you resist, the louder it becomes. The forgotten parts of your being start to rise, like ghosts from the depths. They take the form of strangers, monsters, storms. They try to speak a language you once knew but forgot, when you began to believe that logic was safer than truth. And so they come each night, not to haunt you, but to heal you, to remind you that your soul is still alive beneath the noise of your waking world. You may not understand them at first. You may wake up unsettled, lost, unsure. But that unease is not your enemy. It is a sign that something sacred has touched you. The dream is the doorway to what has been exiled within you, and the trembling you feel is the threshold. Beyond it lies the part of you that has been waiting to return. And yet, you hesitate. You want to know what it all means, but you also want to forget. You crave clarity, but fear what the truth might reveal. That is where the dream lives, in the space between fear and revelation. It stands there every night, offering you a hand. It does not demand that you believe. It only asks that you listen, because somewhere deep within, beneath the stories you tell yourself, beneath your defenses and disguises, there is a voice that remembers who you are. It has always been trying to reach you through the language of dreams. And tonight, perhaps, you will finally listen. When you dream, you enter the oldest sanctuary of the soul. The walls are made of images, the floor is woven from memory, and every breath carries the scent of something ancient and alive. In this inner temple, time loses its edges. You are no longer who you think you are. You become everything you have forgotten. Dreams open that door, allowing what has been buried to rise again and speak in a voice beyond words. They are the secret conversation between the conscious and the unconscious, the dialogue that keeps your spirit from collapsing under the weight of waking life. Every night, your mind surrenders control, and the hidden world begins its work. The unconscious collects what you have ignored, the emotions you silenced, the choices you avoided, the longings you denied. It transforms them into visions, archetypes, symbols of fire and shadow. A river runs through that landscape, carrying fragments of your forgotten self. When you close your eyes, you return to its source. The dream is not an escape from reality. It is reality seen from the inside out. What appears as nonsense to the intellect is sacred geometry to the soul. Every image, every gesture, every whisper in a dream belongs to a pattern older than thought. You might dream of a forest, thick and breathing. You wander through it without knowing the path. Yet, the forest is your own psyche, and every branch hides a memory waiting to be found. The figures that greet you, they are not strangers. They are pieces of you, exiled and disguised, waiting to be remembered. To understand dreams, you must let go of understanding. They do not reveal themselves to those who dissect them. They open to those who listen. Like water, they resist grasping hands, but reflect clearly to still eyes. When you look into them, without expectation, something stirs within you. The images begin to shift. They start to align. The dream shows what is out of balance, what demands attention, what yearns to be whole again. It does not moralize. It mirrors. In this mirror, you face what you fear most, your own reflection. The shadow appears first, for it is the part you have tried hardest to forget. It may come as a pursuer, an enemy, a beast. It frightens you, because it carries everything you cannot bear to see in yourself. Yet, when you turn toward it, you begin to understand its purpose. The shadow is not evil. It is wounded light, seeking redemption through recognition. To dream of darkness is to meet the exiled fragments of your own fire. Dreams speak in the tongue of paradox. They wound and heal, conceal and reveal. One night they show your despair, and the next they unveil your hidden strength. Their rhythm follows the movement of life itself, descent before ascent, death before rebirth. Through them, the unconscious seeks balance, guiding you back to your center. They are not illusions. They are instructions written in symbols, and the soul, patient and persistent, repeats them until you finally understand. What Jung called the psyche is not just a mind. It is a cosmos within you, filled with stars of memory and constellations of meaning. Dreams are the messengers, traveling between those worlds, bridging what is seen and unseen. They invite you to remember that you are more than your story, more than your body, more than your pain. They whisper that beneath the noise of the world lies a deeper order, one that wants you to become whole again. So the dream comes, gentle or fierce, to guide you home. It may use fear to wake you, beauty to lure you, love to heal you. But its intention is always mercy. It knows you have wandered far from yourself, and it will not rest until you return. Every symbol, every strange encounter, every feeling that lingers after waking, is a thread leading back to your center. The question is not whether your dreams are real, but whether you are willing to be real enough to follow them. The dream begins in darkness. Not the darkness of absence, but of potential. You find yourself standing in a space that has no walls, no ceiling, only the soft hum of silence pressing against your skin. Something moves there, like a memory half-formed. You reach for it, but it slips through your fingers, becoming light, then shadow, then light again. The scene feels familiar, though you cannot place it. In that instant, you realize the dream is not showing you a place. It is showing you a feeling, one you have buried for years. That feeling becomes a doorway. Through it, the unconscious enters your awareness, cloaked in symbols that speak of what you cannot yet name. Perhaps you see a house, its rooms endless, its doors locked. You move through them searching for something lost. That house is not random. It is your inner architecture. Each room is a memory, each door, a choice you have not opened. The dream asks you to walk again through what you abandoned, to restore life to what you left behind. It is your soul's way of bringing light to forgotten corners. When Jung spoke of individuation, he spoke of this journey through the inner house. The dream is the guide who takes your hand when reason cannot. It leads you through corridors where logic falters, showing that truth is not found in explanation, but in experience. You cannot think your way to wholeness. You must feel your way. And so the dream constructs worlds where feeling becomes form. A single image, a single sound, can contain the weight of a lifetime. The key is not to interpret, but to participate. The dream unfolds like fire, feeding on what you resist. It burns away illusions and leaves behind the bones of your being. The more you surrender, the clearer it becomes. You begin to see that the figures who walk beside you are not strangers, but parts of yourself, some wounded, some wise, all waiting for your acknowledgement. They appear in the language they know best, the language of symbol and sensation. To meet them is to remember that you are vast, far more than the surface you show the world. As the dream fades, you wake with a strange ache, a longing you cannot define. It feels like nostalgia for something that has never happened, or perhaps for something that has always been happening, behind the veil of awareness. That ache is the echo of the encounter. It is proof that something within you has stirred, something that refuses to return to sleep. The dream has done its work. It has cracked the shell of habit and allowed a single ray of awareness to shine through. The night has whispered, and now the waking day must learn to listen. There are dreams that arrive quietly, almost unnoticed, like whispers in a crowded room. And there are others that burst open like thunder, shaking you awake with their power. Both come from the same source, the deep river of the unconscious that flows beneath the surface of your mind. You cannot control its tides, yet it always knows where you are. When you drift too far from your truth, the current changes, carrying images that pull you back toward your center. It is the soul's way of remembering itself through you. You might dream of falling, endlessly, through a sky that never ends. At first, it feels like terror, but if you look closer, there is a strange freedom in that descent. The fall is not punishment. It is surrender. It shows you what happens when the ego loses its grip, when the illusion of control dissolves into the vastness of what you truly are. The dream teaches that only by falling inward can you find ground that does not move. It is an invitation to trust the invisible, to let the unknown hold you. Every image is alive. The snake that bites your hand, the ocean that swallows you, the fire that consumes your home. These are not symbols meant to frighten you. They are expressions of transformation, of energies, long denied, seeking to be integrated. The snake does not come to kill, but to shed its skin. The ocean does not drown, it cleanses. The fire does not destroy, it purifies. In every nightmare there is a secret promise of renewal, if only you can look through the fear, instead of away from it. The dream world is alchemy in motion. It takes the raw material of your emotions and transforms them into gold through the heat of experience. When you dream, you become both the alchemist and the element being refined. Each night, something within you dies, and something new is born. You may wake up feeling unsettled, unsure of what has changed, but the change is real. It moves quietly beneath awareness, shaping the way you see, the way you breathe, the way you love. To engage with your dreams is to accept a sacred responsibility. They do not come to entertain, but to evolve you. They call you to courage, to honesty, to surrender. The dream is a mirror, but also a path. It reflects where you are and shows where you could go. It asks for your humility, your attention, your willingness to listen. For if you learn to hear them, dreams will not only reveal what is broken, they will show you how to heal. They will remind you that what you seek is already within, waiting to awaken. Sometimes the dream speaks through silence. You find yourself in an empty street, the world around you, painted in muted colors. There is no sound, only the faint echo of your footsteps as you walk. You sense that something is watching, yet nothing appears. That stillness is not emptiness. It is a mirror reflecting the quiet chambers of your psyche. The absence of noise is its own language, a reminder that meaning often hides not in what is shown, but in what remains unsaid. The dream asks you to listen between the lines. In those moments, awareness expands. You begin to see that what you meet in your dreams is not fantasy, but forgotten truth. The landscapes, the faces, the rooms, all exist within the architecture of your inner world. They are made of memory and emotion, of instinct and soul. When you stand in that street, you are walking through the corridors of your own being. Every step takes you deeper into yourself, beyond the stories you tell by day, into the raw essence of what you are becoming. Jung saw the dream as a message from the self, the totality of your being that extends far beyond the ego's limited view. When you dream, that larger consciousness reaches out, sending fragments of wisdom through the veil of sleep. It shows you what your mind cannot yet grasp in daylight. The ego resists, for it fears dissolution. Yet the dream's purpose is not to destroy it, but to restore balance, to remind the conscious mind that it is not the whole. It is only the gatekeeper to something greater. And so the dream becomes a rehearsal for awakening. Within its shifting scenes, you practice letting go. You learn to die to what you think you know, to be reborn into what is true. Every night you dissolve into the unconscious, and every morning you return slightly altered, carrying traces of the eternal within your mortal form. The symbols you encounter are the footprints of that passage. They remind you that the line between life and dream is thinner than you imagine. Both are stories told by the same soul. You wake, perhaps disoriented, with the feeling that something inside you has moved. The day feels different, though you cannot explain why. The air carries a strange clarity, a softness that was not there before. You look around and notice details you once ignored, a flicker of light on the wall, the rhythm of your own breathing. This is how the dream continues. It does not end at dawn. It follows you, gently reshaping your perception, until waking itself begins to feel like another dream, one you are finally starting to remember. There are nights when your dreams feel heavy, almost unbearable. You wake with your chest tight, your throat dry, your mind clouded by fragments that refuse to fade. In those moments, you may think the dream has betrayed you, that it has dragged you into chaos for no reason. But it has not. The chaos is the medicine. The darkness you feel is the exact material the psyche needs to work with. It brings to the surface the tensions you conceal, the desires you repress, the wounds you have left unattended. What hurts is what is trying to heal. The unconscious does not speak in gentle tones. It uses contrast to reveal truth. It may send you dreams of fire, so that you see how much ice has formed in your heart. It may send you images of pursuit, so that you realize what you have been running from. Every painful vision holds a mirror to your resistance. To dream of fear is to witness your own imprisonment. The walls that surround you in nightmares are the same walls you build in waking life. When they crumble, it feels terrifying, yet it is the beginning of freedom. Sometimes you dream of death. A loved one fades, or you yourself disappear into darkness. Such dreams are rarely about endings. They are about transformation. Death in dreams signals the dissolution of what no longer serves you. Something within must die so that life can move forward. Jung saw these symbolic deaths as sacred passages, rites of renewal within the psyche. The unconscious knows when it is time to let go, even when the ego clings. It writes that truth in the only language you cannot ignore. The dream's purpose is not to spare you discomfort. It is to show you who you are beyond comfort. It strips you bare, taking away the illusions you have mistaken for safety. It exposes the truth hidden under the skin of habit. And though you wake shaken, there is always a strange clarity that follows. Like air after a storm, the soul feels lighter. You sense that something heavy has shifted, though you may not know what. The dream has moved you closer to yourself, one layer thinner, one breath deeper. If you dare to stay with that feeling, not to analyze, but to feel, something miraculous begins to happen. The pain softens. The fear transforms into tenderness. You begin to see that the darkness was never against you. It was for you. It was the soul's way of breaking the surface, of pushing toward light. Every difficult dream is a rehearsal for rebirth, a small death that teaches you how to live. And when you begin to trust that rhythm, even your nightmares become holy ground. Then there are the dreams that feel like revelations. They rise with a radiance that leaves you breathless, as if the night itself has opened a window to eternity. You might find yourself walking through a landscape drenched in golden light, or standing before an ocean that mirrors the sky. There is no fear there, only stillness. These are not ordinary dreams. They are moments when the veil between your soul and the infinite thins. Something beyond you begins to speak, not in words, but in understanding. In these luminous encounters, the symbols shift from shadow to light. You no longer flee from what appears, you move toward it. The figures that once frightened you now offer guidance. The house that once trapped you now becomes a temple. The fire that once consumed now warms. Everything that once opposed you reveals its true purpose, to bring you closer to wholeness. The dream becomes a map of integration, where opposites merge and polarity dissolves into unity. This is the work of the self, the center that connects the human and the divine within you. When you touch it, even briefly, you sense that every conflict, every loss, every night of despair has been leading here. The dream reflects that truth through beauty, through the harmony of images that speak directly to the heart. You realize that the soul's language was never cruel. It was simply precise. It knew what needed to break, what needed to burn, and what needed to bloom. You may wake from such a dream with tears, not from sorrow, but from recognition. For a moment, you remember that life is not random. You feel the threads connecting, every experience, every encounter, every silence. The symbols that once confused you now seem simple, inevitable, alive. They have revealed their purpose. They were never separate pieces, but parts of a single pattern woven through time. You were never lost, only being guided through the dark to see the light more clearly. As the day unfolds, that vision stays with you. The world feels softer, more transparent. You notice beauty in places you used to pass without seeing. You begin to sense that waking life itself might be another layer of dreaming, another classroom for the soul. The dream did not end with the morning. It became you, and in that quiet realization, something within you bows in gratitude, as if the universe had whispered your true name, and for an instant you remembered how to listen. Yet, not all dreams end in light. Some linger in mystery, unresolved, half hidden behind symbols you cannot decipher. You wake with fragments, with images that fade before you can hold them, with emotions that refuse to explain themselves. These dreams are the unfinished sentences of the soul. They remind you that understanding is not the goal, only relationship. To dream is to stay in conversation with the unknown, to allow life to remain alive within you, unanswered but awake. The psyche speaks in riddles, because truth is too vast to fit into certainty. You may dream of wandering through a fog, searching for someone you never find. You may open doors that lead back to where you started. You may cry out and hear no reply. It feels like failure, yet this is the essence of transformation. The dream keeps you humble. It teaches patience. It reminds you that you are not the author of your becoming, only its witness. The symbols will ripen in their own time, like fruit that cannot be forced to sweeten before the sun is ready. When nothing seems clear, faith must take the place of clarity. Jung understood that the unconscious works with divine precision, even when it appears chaotic. Each dream is a thread woven into the larger pattern of your evolution. Some show the problem, others the solution, but most lie somewhere in between, preparing the ground for revelation. The waiting itself is sacred, for it is in waiting that the ego loosens its grip, and the soul learns to breathe again. If you return to those dreams without judgment, they begin to change. The fog thins. The silence becomes a kind of music. You start to feel that something within you has been moving all along, unseen but constant. You realize that the dream does not belong to the night alone. It extends into every moment of your life, whispering through intuition, through coincidence, through the quiet pull of destiny. The world itself begins to dream through you. And then one night, without warning, you dream of light again. It does not explain, it simply is. You stand in its presence and understand that nothing was ever missing. The confusion, the fear, the silence, all were part of the same song. The dream was never trying to entertain or torment you. It was trying to save you. It was trying to lead you home, to remind you that the divine speaks in symbols, and that your life, in all its mystery, is the dream of something eternal learning to remember itself through you. Now the pieces begin to converge. You sense that every dream, every symbol, every strange visitation was never separate. They were all threads of the same tapestry, woven by something that sees farther than you do. You realize that your nightmares were not curses, but instructions written in the dark. They guided you to face what you feared, so that the light would have somewhere to enter. You start to see how each descent has shaped you, how every loss has opened a hidden door within your soul. The unconscious has been sculpting you in silence, teaching you how to remember yourself through the language of night. The dream and waking life start to blur. You walk through the day and notice how reality mirrors your inner images. A stranger's face reminds you of a figure from your sleep. A sudden scent recalls a forgotten vision. The world becomes alive, responsive, intentional. You begin to feel that something vast is in conversation with you, using both dream and daylight as its vocabulary. This realization changes everything. You are not drifting through random events. You are being guided, shaped, and remembered. The dream continues in every breath you take. In that awareness, the fear softens. The unknown no longer feels like an enemy, but a teacher. You see that the dream was never separate from you. It is your own soul, reaching through the surface of consciousness to show you who you really are. The figures that haunted you now stand as guardians. The darkness that once swallowed you now reveals itself as fertile soil. Every image becomes sacred, every symbol a reflection of divine intelligence moving through you. You are both the dreamer and the dream, both the question and the answer. There is a moment when you no longer need to interpret. You simply listen. You let the symbols breathe without trying to contain them. You allow the psyche to unfold its rhythm, like a song that has always been playing beneath the noise of your own thoughts. The river that once frightened you now carries you gently. You understand that to dream is to return to the source, and to wake is to bring a piece of that source back into form. The division between sleeping and waking fades. Only awareness remains, vast and calm. And in that calm, something profound occurs. You feel gratitude for the nights that terrified you, for the visions that broke you, for the symbols that confused you. All of it has been part of the same act of grace. You see now that your dreams were never random. They were messages from the eternal self, calling you home. You realize that what you sought in the stars, in the world, in others, was always within. The dream was your reflection, in the mirror of infinity, whispering, again and again, that you were never lost, only asleep, and that awakening was always the purpose of the night. You begin to notice that the rhythm of your life has changed. The night no longer feels like an interruption, but a continuation. You lie down and close your eyes, not to escape the day, but to enter the deeper current beneath it. The dream is waiting, patient, ancient, unafraid of time. It gathers the fragments of your waking hours and reshapes them into visions that heal. You understand now that it was never meant to be deciphered by logic, only felt by the heart. You breathe softly, knowing that as you surrender to sleep, you are not falling into nothingness. You are returning to yourself. In that return, the soul becomes whole. You see that the dream world and the waking world are two reflections of the same mystery. The moon that shines above you is the same light that burns behind your eyelids. The forest you walk through in sleep grows from the same roots that hold your spirit steady in the day. Everything is connected. Every image, every fear, every revelation belongs to a single movement toward awareness. The dream was never outside you. It was your inner world illuminated, your truth speaking in a tongue older than words. When morning comes, you rise differently. The air feels cleaner. Your thoughts seem softer. The ordinary things you once overlooked now seem alive with quiet meaning. You realize that your dreams have not ended. They have become the texture of your perception. You see their symbols in the rhythm of footsteps, in the flicker of light through a window, in the pause before a word is spoken. The dream has crossed the threshold, becoming part of your waking prayer. You are no longer divided between night and day. You are whole, and in that wholeness, peace emerges. Not the peace of forgetting, but the peace of remembering. You know now that the unconscious has always been your ally, guiding you through fear into understanding, through darkness into light. Every dream was an act of compassion from the deeper mind, an attempt to save what you had abandoned. You bow inwardly to that mystery, to the intelligence that never stopped trying to reach you, even when you refused to listen. Gratitude becomes your final language. So tonight, when you close your eyes, do not resist what comes. Let the images rise and fall like tides. Let them speak in their strange, poetic way. Trust that they are leading you somewhere sacred, because they are. Your dreams have always been trying to save you, not from the world, but from forgetting who you are. And as the last thought dissolves into silence, you realize that the saving has already begun. The night breathes. The soul answers. And within that stillness, you finally rest.